I would like to point out quickly that this is a improv, so there will be mistakes, and either way, I hope you enjoy. In the late 1970s, there was a group of people who studied human fear, trying to figure out any way to stop it from happening and finding ways to help people overcome it. Among their research, they had found some old documents belonging to a different group who researched mostly the same things, but more or less things that caused fear. Entities such as ghosts, paranormal beings, and things that more people believed in, such as the fear of tight spaces and other known such fears, like spiders and snakes. However, one such document inside of these files was one called Mr. Nightmare. The file detailed an entity of unknown origin, not being a ghost or demon of any sorts, just being an entity that roamed the earth. The entity, Mr. Nightmare, was described as being a tall male figure with a hat and trench coat. The hat usually being described as a top hat or a fedora, as most people have seen him. Most people who have seen Mr. Nightmare, have claimed to immediately feel discomfort and feel a sensation that something just isn't right. Long exposure, people who have witnessed Mr. Nightmare multiple times instead of just once or twice, claim to feel as if they are losing their mind and as if they aren't in reality anymore. Everything around them, they say, shifts to a more demonic and creepier setting than the life they lived. Some people described it as a small change from a cat looking more demonic. Some people went worse cases, as documented in the files that they uncovered, detailed ones that went as far as saying entire places seemed more gruesome, some detailing horrific death scenes and murders that had happened years and years before, some detailing things that had never happened but would happen later. The worst known incident was a man who, well, the worst documented incident. There have been many incidents that have not been documented that we know of, anyway. The worst one was of a man who stated that he saw Mr. Nightmare for the first time on his way home from work. He had been walking for quite a while, approximately 4 or 5 miles. Why he wouldn't just take a car or something is beyond all of our knowledge. Or maybe even ride a bike, who knows. However, he stated that on his way home he felt major discomfort. Well, he told the researchers at the time that he felt major discomfort and felt as though something seemed completely off. The air felt dense and cold, as if someone had frozen the air around him and made a thick fog. However, people who had been also around the area at the time had said of no such feeling and no such fog or anything rolling in. However, he also stated that after a few minutes of this feeling, he started to get paranoid, thinking there were people in windows around him, thinking there were animals in the distance making noises. This is the worst known case. Well, this part is a very severe case of people who have witnessed Mr. Nightmare since Most people just describe discomfort. Why this man, suffered worse than others is still unknown. Back into the description of the incidents. The man then said after a while he started seeing the figure or entity, Mr. Nightmare, in random places, spanning from rooftops of very, very steep slopes, not being able to stand how he was. Sometimes he said he would see him out of the corner of his eye, in an alleyway, just peeking his head through. Other times he said it was more obvious, him standing in a window, or maybe in the rearview mirror of his car. Some people, however, this man also stated that people around him would notice nothing of the sorts. They had no idea what this man was talking about. The man described that after a few days of all this happening, he went home one night, and he says that night he couldn't get any sleep. He heard noises spanning from scratches behind his wall to banging inside impossible spaces. Things seemed considerably stranger than usual for the man. He stated that he would still see Mr. Nightmare, but this time in his house, in down hallways, in dark rooms, maybe in the shower, in the mirror while he took a shower. It's completely unknown if these are factual statements or something created by the mind of a madman. He proceeded to start going slowly and slowly as the nights went on, hearing these noises as they would get progressively worse, more intense. The scratching became more like clawing, more like something was trying to escape the walls. Something was trying to free itself. The banging became louder, as if someone was trying to warn him to get away. Then there were instances where he would wake up in the middle of the night, not due to banging or scratching, but moaning. The moaning would be low and very, very soft at first, and then growing into a loud scream, yelling at him, telling him he was to blame. The man, his track record had no violence in the past, nothing of sorts. The screaming would eventually just turn to that, just blood-curdling screaming at him for hours and hours on end. The man eventually broke, went completely mentally insane. He finally discussed all this after a few years in a mental ward, where he still complained about scratching, banging, and moaning, but not as intense as in his house. Some believe Mr. Nightmare only is a figment of a madman's imagination, or something that is sent from the devil, even though it has been stated that he is of unknown origin, of no demon has ever been described. The man later hung himself after a few more days in the psych ward. His officers said that he started saying he heard it louder and more intense. A little while after the documentation of this incident, everyone in the research, every single researcher went completely insane, killing hundreds of people afterwards. After that, the file was hidden and locked away. That is until we found it.